Hello there, my name is Bando and this is Breakfast with Bando, and today we're going to be taking a little meandering wander through the gardens of the Imperial Palace. Unfortunately, the Regent of Terra has decided to reinforce the garden with 400 miles of barbed wire, 36 bunker complexes and 600 metric tons of ferrocrete per square feet. I am, of course, talking about the 7th Legion, the Imperial Fists. And the Imperial Fists are the new poster child for Warhammer 30,000. They are the box art alongside the Sons of Horus. They are the opposing faction in the starter set, and they are as close to the Ultramarines of 40k as we can possibly get. So with that being said, I want to take you through some of the things that I do and some of the things that we can look at to detail our Imperial Fists. So, as with the other videos in this series, we're just going to be looking at something like the plastic Mark III Marines, or the Mark IV or Mark VI Marines, and having a look at what we can do to make these guys a little bit more interesting and a bit more characterful than just simply painting them yellow. Now, I do apologise, in my videos you can often hear me moving on my chair. It does seem to make an awful lot of noise, unfortunately, and also clicking my mouse, so I'm going to try to do that as little as possible, and again, also the breathing. For those of you who don't know, I recently recovered from COVID, and it has basically halved my lung capacity, and now I get winded basically sitting in a chair. So I do apologise for that, so bear with me. It's a slow improvement. I'm walking 5 miles a day every day to try and get my lung capacity back up, and as you can tell from my videos, I like to talk an awful lot between breaths. So, with that being said, let's get into this video and take a look at the Imperial Fists. So, who are the Imperial Fists? Well, the 7th Legion, the Sons of Rogel Dawn, are one of the paramount... where Rogel Dawn, the Primarch of the 7th Legion, had arrived on his new homeworld of Inwit, which was, like many of the Primarchs, a horrible, desolate world. In this case, it was an ice world, and he basically unified the planet, rediscovered the technology they had, shot himself off into space, and spent however many years it was looting everything that wasn't nailed down. He kept finding wrecks of starships all over the place. He'd capture them, he'd either repair them, or he would strip them for parts and learn their secrets. And this led to the Inuit people, or Inuit, obviously there's the pun, into creating their own little version of sort of Ultramar. It wasn't as big as Ultramar, but it was an independent human empire, and then the Emperor turns up. So, from that history, the Imperial Fists really took on the martial sort of feeling and backing of the Inuit people. They took on their stylings, their type of warfare, their shipborne warfare, and they really kind of went into things, into sort of a clan almost, a caste system, where basically, you know, they were little insular groups, which became the companies, and then each of these companies really kind of followed the leader. You see this with people like Fafnir Ran and Sigismund, whose forces very much emulated how they fought, and they would match things like the personal heraldry of their leaders. The most famous of these, obviously, is the Templar Brethren, or Templar Brotherhood, who were Sigismund's chosen. They were the first company, they were the elite of the Imperial Fists. And unlike Sigismund, they bore his personal heraldry, which was the Maltese Cross, which obviously is not a Maltese Cross, it's something different. But this is something that's very prevalent in the Imperial Fist, is this symbol, because he is the best. He is their first captain. He kind of ran things before Dawn was found, I believe. And they use these symbols of their leaders, of their company commanders, the units they're in, and these are a great way to break up a lot of flat space. And that's the problem with Imperial Fists, is you have an awful lot of flat space that's bright yellow. So you've got two things you can do to really kind of break that up. And that is decals and weathering, usually. So with decals, anything that looks martial, anything knightly, because like the Ultramarines, the Imperial Fists have a strong connection to sort of Earth culture. They have a strong connection to sort of the knightly cultures of Europe during the sort of 1200s to the 1500s sort of thing. So it's lots of knights, it's lots of cross swords, maces, it's tilt shields, heraldry. So anything to make them look more knightly. So favouring things like Mark III armour really does help with that. I find raiding things like certain Dark Angel decal sheets are really good for this. Some Mechanicum, some Imperial Army, Imperial Guard. They're all really good. They've all got little bits in there that you can use. And obviously, just like most of the legions, the companies developed their own characters before they were reunified by their Primarch. So this image here you can see on screen at the moment. This Legionnaire has not only the cross swords on his shin, he's got the Legion number on his knee, a tactical marking on his wrist, a couple of Legion symbols on his shoulders, and then a Raptor Imperialis on his chest, and that signifies him as a Terran veteran. He fought on Earth during the Unification Wars. If these were readily available transfers, it'd be fantastic, but they're not. Not that I know of, at least. But the Lightning Bolts and Eagle's Head, if you're good at freehanding, would be a brilliant way of, signifying a veteran unit, older Marines. And again, you can see here, also he's got the black backpack. Imperial Fists generally have two extra colours, which is black and red. And those are used as great spot colours and a great way to break up large amounts of yellow. So as you can see on this image here, we have a veteran in black mostly with the yellow detailings. He's got lots of different decals all over. He's got some skulls. He's got a different coloured helmet with a stripe on it. He's got some personal heraldry on his chest piece there. And he's also rocking the Tarouges, which is always great. You can't go wrong with them. The guy in the middle, he's part of Fafnir Rand's assault company because he's got the twin axes there. He's also got some other interesting decals on the shield. That top one is actually goes back as far as Rogue Trader, and I believe indicates that he is what was at the time referred to as a military police, but they were basically discipline masters. Again, he's also got the cross swords on his wrist and a different coloured helmet to mark him out as, I believe, a veteran sergeant. The other guy, very similar to the one we saw before, he's got the veteran marking, and he's also got the Raptor Imperialis, and also the Maltese Cross. Now, some people might have a problem with this. Oh my God, why has he got the Templar Cross on him? He's not a Templar brother, and he's not wearing black. What's going on? Maybe he served a tour of duty alongside Sigismund. Maybe he was recognised by a Templar commander. But the story you make up is down to you. As long as it fits the narrative of the Legion, and that does, you can do anything you want with those decals. The other thing is weathering, and I find using something like Rhinox hide sponged on is a great way of breaking up the yellow. If you just went straight for a silver chipping onto yellow, it disappears very quickly. Your eyes aren't very able to differentiate between the two colours. So going with some brown, and then on the very edges you can put the silver in, or put the silver in the middle of the bigger chips. It makes it stand out more. Also helps give it more of a 3D optical illusion, trick of the eye. On the black armour, just use straight up silver chipping. It's easier, it stands out brilliantly. So here we've got the Primaris upgrades bureau, and I'm just going to quickly cover what I think from here is good and, why. The shoulder pads are all fine. The aggressor pads are great to fit on Indomitus Terminators, and if anyone's going to be using Indomitus pattern Terminators, it's going to be the Imperial Fists. Now, from what we can see, the Indomitus Terminators no longer have rules, but there is nothing stopping you from rule of cooling it and saying, hey, I'm running all Tartarus Terminators and using Indomitus models. If If the person against you has a problem with that, punch them in the mouth and find a different opponent. I mean, just disagree and play a different opponent. Punch them in the mouth. Do it. Smaller pads, great for anyone. You can shave the rim off of them and use them as Mark 6 pads, or just leave them as they are and run them as Mark 4 pads. Trim off the sort of the shoulder guard on Mark 3 pads and stick them on top if you want. Go for it. These are just a really good way of getting a large number of Legion icons onto your guys quick. The 2 tilt shields, absolutely fine. They can go on anything. The bolt pistol arms, not great. Lose the bolt pistols and put some classic bolt pistols on them. Try to avoid this arm. It's very identifiably as Primaris. One little trick I like to do is to file down the front of this arm a little bit, and then take a Mark III arm that I'm not using, like a classic bolter holding arm, and trim off just the foregrip, like the forearm vambrace, and then you can stick it on top, and at tabletop distance, no one will be able to tell the difference. 2 power fists, both on the same arm, obviously. Great, absolutely fine, perfect, love them, have used loads of them. The Mark 10 helmet is out, unless you're going to use it buried as a, dead guy's helmet and trim the edges down and stuff. The 2 bear heads, absolutely fine, brilliant. Optics on helmet or on heads, great, love them. All of the little gumph at the bottom, perfect, brilliant. Little siege tools and measuring devices and, set square, whatever the hell that is, a compass or whatever. Yeah, brilliant. All of those. Even the little techno gabble there at the end, I've stuck that on loads of my units. The Primaris Imperial Fists kit is probably one of the best ones, and is brilliant for 30k, minus a couple of bits. The Templars Kit is also pretty good. Obviously, if you're going to use a Templars Brotherhood guys, even better. And yeah, I mean, at the top we got the heads. Everything but one of those is pretty much usable straight as. The Mark 10 guy, the top right, is not particularly great. You'd have to shave the ears down and get rid of the bunny bits. But other than that, you're fine. The bottom helmet, I love that. I've already used it on a character. Some people absolutely hate it. That is just a great sort of relic Mark II helmet. All of these bear heads are fantastic. I'm pretty sure I went to school with one of these guys. The backpack's out. A lot of this sort of scrimshaw-y stuff, the bones, the heads, and all that sort of weird gubbins. Not so much. Maybe on the Templars. Definitely not on regular Imperial Fists. It's a bit too superstitious for them. The skulls being held in the hands, maybe only for a librarian. Yes, I know Imperial Fists generally don't like librarians, but they did use them begrudgingly. So like an esoterist or something who really is tapping into the weird and wibbly side of the warp could look really cool with this sort of skull on a chain. All the pads are fine. There's even some Mark III pads in there. You've got double-sided, both sides of the aggressor pads, which is fantastic. That's quite rare to get. All of the litanies and stuff, they're brilliant. They can be used as oaths of moment. Yeah, all of this is pretty good. All bar one's arm for the scouts. You could use those for recon marines. In fact, I actually plan to do that. I plan to use a lot of these for a recon unit. The bolter one, you just need to swap the weapon out. And the sword arm with the helmet, you just need to try and get rid of the helmet and put a more Heresy looking helmet in there. The weird banner with the sort of flayed skin and stuff, I think that would look fantastic for some Night Lord stuff, but not particularly for anyone else. And then we've just got a couple of my Imperial Fists. You've seen all of these before. You can see the chipping and the weathering I've done on them, the decals. With the Huskars here, I've used dwarf axes because the Huskars are the house guard. A Huskar is actually an Anglo-Saxon word. It means house guard. They were the bodyguards of the king. I believe it was King Harold. So yeah, I went for that because it's got like the really nice sort of Saxony Celtic knotwork and the dragons. Personal heraldry, and they've got tilt shields. They've got cruxes on them, because that shape is actually well documented in a lot of the black books as being sort of for veterans. Checkerboards. I love checkerboards. Checkerboards are such a throwback to 2nd edition and Rogue Trader. If you can't paint checkerboards, do yourself a favour. Spend a weekend just practicing, because they look so good if you can pull them off. Again, I've also thrown in an alternate colour here. The tan on a single shoulder pad makes him stand out. Also lets me use some different decals on there. The banner for the command squad banner bearer, I've gone for that knightly sort of pendant style. It's just fluttering in the wind. You really want to sort of get these guys, try and hype up that knightly kind of feel, just like they were with the Black Templars. Get some swords in there, some axes. Power Fists are great. I prefer swords at this time. The other thing is, I don't really see Thunderhammers as a very knightly weapon, but it's all really down to you. I'm sure you can make it work. The Primus Medicae here, I absolutely love this model. This is one of my favourite models I've ever done. These photos do not do it justice. And the only yellow on the entire model is in the light and on his knee pad. And I could not find an Imperial Fist decal small enough to fit anywhere on this model, which really annoyed me. But other than that, he is one of my favourite. He also very much reminds me of like the kind of Space Crusade, kind of white Dark Angels era. I think that's probably why I like him. If you can get your hands on the old Black Templars upgrade kit, either legally or yo-ho-holy, it has some great parts to upgrade things like rhinos. So they're another brilliant way of just adding some details to the older rhinos. Mixing armour marks as well is always good. One of the few legions that can pull off Mark 7 because of the Siege of Terror. Have a look at the Forge World bits as well. I've got Forge World bolters on these guys, a couple of Forge World knives, some swords, also some 3D printed parts, but we won't talk about that. Again, with the Black Templars, the old Black Templars kit, there's a lot of stuff in there, like torsos that are really good, backpacks that are really good to mix in there. Indomitus Terminators, try using them, throwing on bits. Terminators in general, try giving them bulking up the waists. Pouches, grenades, random gubbins, anything to make them look a bit wider in the waist, because a lot of Terminators are very thin at the waist, and that kind of gives them this very lanky look. If you bulk out the waists, it can make them just look a lot bigger than they actually are. So yeah, other than that, you can see on this Sergeant, he's got his own sort of personal heraldry. He's got the laurels, and he's got the Aquila there, and the veteran's helmet. So really just go nuts. Try out a little bit of freehand. Get red on there on the chest eagles, on the Imperialis. Get some grenades in there. You can see on this Terminator at the end, he's got the aggressor pad. He's got a tilt shield, which has got the old Assault Company logo on it. He's got parts from the Primaris upgrade sprue on there as well. It's really down to you. But sometimes less is more. Sometimes more is more. You do just kind of have to practice. Figure out what something is, where it should go. There's no point, for example, on a Terminator, putting a scabbard on his right side. Because he can't draw the sword with his power fist. And he's going to have a real hard time drawing it with his regular hand if it's on the same side. So it's little things like that. Just stop and think about how would the Marine actually be able to do this. It's the same with posing models. If you really want to pose a model in a certain way, try and stand in that pose. When you get your leg up, go get a box or something, or a chair, and put your leg up. And it's like, does this feel ridiculous? Does it feel uncomfortable? Does it feel unstable? Do I, am I going to fall over if there's a small breeze? Then maybe that's not the best pose to have. So all in all, have a look at the Imperial Fists. Do yourself a favour. Just jump on Google, have a look at some of the artwork. If you can get your hands on it, the Horus Heresy Collected Visions books have some esoteric but fantastic artwork in them for all the legions. Unless you're White Scars, then you get about 3 images. One of those is a Thunderhawk, I think. but yeah, get a hold of the Collected Visions, or Visions of Heresy, I think it's called now, book. Get a hold of the Black Books. Have a look at the artwork in there. Go and have a look at sort of 12th, 13th, 14th century knights and see what they looked like. Have a look at the belts they wear and the way they fold the belts over, which would look really good on a Space Marine. Have a look at tabards and what sort of designs were on them. What did they mean? Do a little bit of research. Put some pride into your models. And don't forget that you can always pop a link in the comments. I'm happy to look at anyone's models if you want me to. I'm happy to answer any questions. I love it when you guys pop a comment in there. I try to reply to every single one of them. Yeah. Have a look at my Instagram. It'll be in the description as well if you want to see anything else I've worked on. There's pretty much pictures of every model I've painted in the last sort of 3 years on there. Let me know which legions you want me to do next. I think I'm going to try and do Thousand Sons next. We'll try and do, Loyalist Traitor. Yeah. And also, last bit, I have 35 Cataphracti Terminators coming up. Or I will have 35 Cataphracti Terminators in a bits box that I have no plans to use in any of my armies. And I am currently torn between doing Blood Angels, Calibanite Dark Angels, or Ultramarines with them. Pop it down in the comments what you think would be the best option, what you'd like to see. My name is Bando. This is Breakfast with Bando. Have a great day.